Like I knew what was going to happen in FP3. Red Bull had to work overnight. I think they used Liam Lawson this time to work overnight to know where they are making mistakes and where they need to scamper for some lap time in order to get closer to Ferrari. Now, we've known from the beginning of this season that everybody is chasing on Red Bull. Is it now that Red Bull is chasing on other teams? That is going to be very, very incredible because that is already happening. Red Bull is trying to chase after Ferrari, McLaren this time to see how they can qualify higher in Monaco. The package is not really giving them what they want. When you ask Max Verstappen, he will tell you the way the car drives is not built to do more than it's doing, this and that. There are no excuses. That is the reality. That is where Red Bull are. They've brought updates that I think are not going to work with the car on that track. And Red Bull are suffering from a lot of oversteer, bouncing, not porpoising this time, bouncing because there are lots of curbs, a lot of dinks in Monaco because it's a proper street track. So it's taking its toll on Red Bull. And all through yesterday, they suffered. Today, they were very closer to Charles Leclerc because at the end of the practice session, Max Verstappen was second. But does that really give us what Red Bull had really worked on or what they are working on? I am sure every other team knows from Imola that they need to look for a way, to do more overnight so that Red Bull will not get over them or will not get past or get by them, because it's easy for Red Bull to get by them because they have the package. Now, for Charles Leclerc, he's doing a beautiful job with that car and he's getting the right tune up, he's getting the right help he needs. He thinks he needs to get the car into. What is he doing or what has he done to get the car into that? Charles Leclerc is driving beautifully well this weekend in his home race. I think he's trying to break the course of Charles Leclerc in Monaco. He wants to do his best to make sure he gets in a possible position for him to win the race. And I think he needs his teammate, either his incoming teammate or his present teammate to get that point tomorrow. And it will be a very beautiful race for him to do. So FP3 starts with Valtteri Bottas' stick crashing into the wall and him losing his front suspension, and he had to sit out the practice session all through. Then we had the track ramping up, the track improving with different lane of rubbers within the session, and Charles Leclerc bumping into the number one spot. Max Verstappen and Red Bull doing everything they could to just get the car into second spot, and Lewis Hamilton from yesterday FP1 first, FP2 second, FP3 third. Will he be going into qualifying fourth? I can't say yet, but he's been consistently closing the gap to the top in his W15. He's using the old front wings while George Russell is using the new front wings. Whichever pays them, but George Russell is not showing any impression of improving with the new front wing. He's really finding it hard on the new front wings. I don't know if they will go back to old front wings with him for the qualifying. It depends on what he wants, but it depends on what they want to trade in. Is the old front wings better for qualifying while the new front wings better for racing? It depends on them, and it depends on the driver and the team on what they really want from this. But I believe in qualifying, we are going to see a very, very close qualifying. The Red Bull want to be in the place so that they can have an advantage of maybe an undercut or an overcut tomorrow. So they want to play themselves in a very big possible spot, because also in Monaco we do have safety car, possibly red flags, which is about 60% in Monaco. So they want to look for where they can really tuck in so that they will have an opportunity to play it along when the car gets into that position. So let's go look at qualifying and see how that qualifying will play out. But I think it's going to be very, very close qualifying, and the race tomorrow is still looking a Ferrari McLaren race. Yeah, so catchy. A qualifying to remember, a qualifying with so much interest, so much ups and downs, so much fun, different vibes with the qualifying. I love this qualifying because it really shows us that the teams are closing up and we need to have a tactic. You need to also have a car that can not just drive on other tracks and not be able to drive on some special tracks. And special tracks we have in this season are special tracks like Monaco, Singapore. The Montreal Grand Prix is a special track also in which the drivers would have to have a very good car. Even Spain next week is somewhat a special track, and if you don't have a car that can do due diligence driving on those tracks, you are not going to be able to perfect your race time, and that really showed in what happened today. So let me start with qualifying. Q1, we had George Russell topping the timesheet with Piastri second and Hamilton third, which shows us that the Mercedes, they really brought a car that they've really improved a little. Not to improve, because they might get to Spain next week and they go back to their positions. It's a car that has really worked out for them, and they can really compete with that car And this weekend has not been different for Mercedes. They've been very close to the Ferrari in that car. But unfortunately, the news and the big surprise for the day was Perez going out in Q1 and Alonso going out in Q1. Alonso came 16th, Sargent 17th, Perez 18th, Bottas 19th, Zhou Guanyu 20th. The stake team had not been up and doing all through the weekend. They've had issues turning their car and everything. But the Red Bull, wow, the car is not compliant. That's what they've been saying since last week, that car is not compliant. But I think the truth is what I've said all along. Other teams have closed up. Now the Red Bull are on their knees. They are shaking. The legs are on their neck. They are confused. They don't know what to do. Red Bull are in it. So it's going to be a big discovery from Red Bull to come out with something special this weekend. Now going to Q2, Ocon out in Q2, but this is a decent weekend for the Alpine and also for Haas. Hülkenberg 12, Ocon 11, Ricciardo 13, Lance Stroll 14th, out qualifying his teammate Fernando Alonso, and Kevin Magnussen 15th. It's also a close tab for them, with Lando Norris topping the timesheet in Q2 and Piastri 3rd, Verstappen 2nd, and Charles Leclerc 4th. In Q3, which is the biggest one, Charles Leclerc looked for that lap. He got that lap and created a daylight between himself and the McLaren. It's going to be a very close race because this race is going to be fun. We're having Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Mercedes, VCAB, Williams, Alpine. It's going to be a very interesting race because we are having the McLaren splitting the Ferrari and McLaren ahead of Mercedes and Mercedes ahead of Red Bull on a street circuit. It's going to be bananas. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very, very interesting. And one of the major issues Verstappen had in the last stint in qualifying in Q3 was he had to hit the wall, the steering. He has been saying that all through the weekend that if this thing is not turning, he's going to hit the wall, this, that, and that happened finally, hit the wall. We don't know what might happen tomorrow, but I think this race is the race between the 1st and the 4th. McLaren, Ferrari. Except something drastic come out, but this is the race between the 3rd and the 4th. We are not expecting any rain tomorrow. It's going to be dry and it's going to be interesting if it's dry. And I cannot just give you enough because this race is going to be bananas. It's going to be very, very interesting. You're going to enjoy the race. And just pick your winners. You are going to have Papaya and Red on the podium tomorrow, 100%. And this race will determine what the Red Bull will do next because the next race is next week in Spain. I'm not sure they can bring any upgrades, but except they have some in pipeline coming up. Mercedes have said they have upgrades in pipeline coming up every race weekend until Silverstone because they want to show in Silverstone that they don't have to disappoint. It's just like a home race for their two drivers, for them, and they don't want to disappoint because the last 3 years they disappointed their fans at home. They don't want to disappoint, so I'm sure that's why they are bringing up great upgrades ahead of those races. But for Red Bull, do they have upgrades in the pipeline? I'm not sure, but they need to bring something up to change the game, to make this qualifying very interesting. But up until tomorrow, predictions like I told you, Papaya, Red, Ferrari, McLaren for the win. I hope it's a Charles Leclerc race because that means he has broken the jinx or the curse of Charles Leclerc Monaco. And I wish all of them best of luck. There will be red flags certainly tomorrow. There will be a lot of yellow flags, safety car. Up until tomorrow, I love you guys. Bye. Chi.